So I don't know when something feels wrong because it's what I've been taught or because it's what feels wrong for me.
Oh.
And that I think is incredibly dangerous.
Open up, you open up.
Let's just do the whole goddamn thing over.
I changed my shirt, so.
Yeah, that's true.
Hi guys, I'm Hannah.
I'm Sadie.
And we're not straight.
And this is the 4th time we're trying to film this video.
So, welcome back. Welcome back to our channel. Happy Sunday. Thank you for being here. If you're new, welcome. And I'm going to start that over. Okay. Welcome. If you're new, welcome for the first time. If you've been here before, welcome back. Make sure you subscribe, turn on the notifications, comment, like. Interacting with this video helps us out a bunch. And another thing you can do is go to our Patreon and become a supporter. I bring that up for 2 reasons. 1, we have some awesome new patrons that we want to give shout outs to. And 2, the book club is starting very, very soon. There are 3 days left to vote on what book you want us to read. So go vote on that book, become a patron, and let's do those shout outs, yeah? Okay. Thank you to
Catherine A.,
Michael M.,
Kira C.,
Dana H.,
Lauren,
and Hannah B. You guys are the best.
Woo!
Okay, I've been really excited about doing today's video. We've been talking about putting this on our channel since we started the channel.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a sensitive topic for a lot of people.
Us included.
Yeah, and has been for us as well. And that's exactly why we want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did I say last time? I feel like it was really good last time.
It was really good. It can be really empowering to find like-minded people in the comment section and hear that you're not the only one having the experience you're having.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. This is also something that people reach out to us about often as well. So coming from my perspective, I grew up Catholic, and that was the religion that I was surrounded by. But based on a lot of the things that people have said to us in comments and conversations that we've had, I know that this is not an experience that is just unique to that religion. I know that other people from other religions have similar experiences. So if this is, if that is true for you and any of this resonates with you, please reach out in the comment section below as you are willing and feel comfortable with sharing. I know a lot of people have said that they feel like they can't come out because of their own faith, something internal, or because of their community, or where in the world they live, and those are all really affecting things, whether that's something that comes from you or something that comes from the circumstance or any sort of like oppressive imposition. It is really hard to reckon with, and hearing about it from other people can be a bridge to feel less isolated. I know for me it was really isolating when I first started kind of grappling with this on my own. And so if that's true for you, you're not alone, and we want to hear from you as you are comfortable and as feels safe for you. But most importantly, you're not alone.
Yeah. Well said.
Thank you. So I've talked about this in my coming out story, and some of the videos where we talk about kind of our earlier like upbringings and things. But I think I understood my faith and my religion before I understood my own sexuality. And I think that that's not a unique experience. I think a lot of people have that. But because of that, Catholicism was the filter through which I understood my own sexuality. And not just my sexuality. It was the filter through which I understood every experience I had. But it really played a strong role in how I conceptualized myself in a relationship and myself having sex, or myself being a sexual person. And it was a really straightforward kind of understanding. What I understood from the Catholic religion was that a couple of big things about sex. That sex was between a man and a woman,
Of course.
That sex was between a man and a woman who wanted to have kids, Therefore, contraception and masturbation were out of the question. And very specifically, the Catholic Church's stance on queer people is that you can be queer, you can be gay or bi or whatever, but you should only have a relationship that is going to allow you to have sex with someone who can, with whom you can bring children into the world. So if that's not going to be true for you, then you shouldn't have sex.
Then sex is not for you.
And a life of celibacy is your option. So if you're a gay man, that's your cross to bear. Whereas for married heterosexual couples, the burden that they carry is dealing with their kids. I don't know, but... And again, if you have experience with this and you have an understanding of this, I know there are a lot of nuances and details. The Catholic Church has been around for 10 or 15 years.
At least.
So if you have an understanding of this, definitely drop it in the comments and help me understand, because that is my takeaway. And I did a lot of study on this.
Yeah, you were a deeply religious person for a long time.
Yes, and intentionally so, and I intentionally chose to study religion in undergrad.
And imagine how hard that would be when you are gay.
Yeah, okay, so regarding that, because this was the filter through which I understood the world, like, being gay was never an option. I wasn't surrounded, I grew up in a really small town, I wasn't surrounded by queer people, I didn't even know any out queer people, personally, and I just didn't even think it was like a real thing for me. I didn't think that it could be.
Yeah.
So I grew up thinking, like, well, no, I don't want to, like, not ever have a relationship or not ever be able to, like, have sex. So
I guess I'm not gay.
Yeah, and it wasn't even that, like, it wasn't like even that level of consciousness. It just never even crossed my mind to not be straight. Which, looking back, and I mentioned this in a bunch of videos before, but looking back on it now, there were so many things that were pointing me in the direction of you're probably not straight. And I can see those now, but at the time I found every excuse or every explanation for why those were not adding up to me being gay. Mm-hmm. But when I came out, a lot of people that knew me when I grew up, or knew me growing up, were like, oh yeah, I always kind of figured that. I was like, well, what the heck, man? I never even thought it was an option.
And I wonder how much sooner you would have understood that about yourself had you not been brought up so closely with religion and within the Catholic Church.
For sure, yeah. I think I would have. I really do think I would have.
Yeah. And that kind of Catholic influence is so pervasive, not just for people who live in small towns or people who are deeply religious or from religious families. That kind of permeates our culture and our broader society, especially in the U.S.
Yeah.
We all feel it, even those of us who weren't religious. So I still feel some of that kind of shame around sex, at least I did when I was growing up. And I think that was from my, like, extended Catholic family upbringing. Anyway, here we are again. So I even felt a lot of that shame around sex growing up, and I wasn't even Catholic. I was baptized Catholic, for the record, I feel like I should say that. But I was not raised in a religious household. And still, it's so pervasive in our society, that shame, and I think a lot of it comes from religion. Yeah, I think so too. I mean, if you are supposed to have sex to have kids, you shouldn't be having sex for fun, right? Like that. Right. That was one of the main takeaways that I had, which means no contraception because you're supposed to have kids, and no masturbation. So there's no fun about it. So you're not supposed to be doing it. Right, you're not supposed to be doing it if not to have kids. Yeah. Which is super problematic for heterosexual relationships, and extra problematic for queer relationships. Yes. What are you, like a puppy or something? God, puppy or something. She ruined our last video. And I remember what I was going to say last video and couldn't remember. The idea that you are not supposed to have sex before marriage because sex is only for having kids brings about a whole other host of issues. Yeah. where people don't know what feels good and don't know what they like, and they get to their wedding and they've never had sex with their partner, which blows my mind. That seems like a recipe for disaster. Anyway, back to what you were saying.
Yeah. If you've had sex, you know it can be powerful. So it has the power to ruin a relationship just like it has the power to strengthen one.
Yes.
Do you remember that show on TLC that was like, where they kissed at the altar? Like they had never like held hands or anything.
Yes.
I just remember feeling like, oh God, like that's gonna be so bad.
And they're like,
You're gonna hate it.
yes, they're like, because I've saved myself for this person, it will be better.
Yeah.
And then when it's not amazing on the first try, which a lot of sexual things often aren't, okay? A lot of times it takes a little getting used to making out with someone. You're not a professional if you haven't done it before. Yes. Unless you have insane chemistry and you've done a lot of research, you're not gonna nail it on the first try.
I don't even, you can't do research.
You can't do
like,
but,
it's
you know
only
what I mean?
experiential research.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be great on the first try, and then what? You just believe that sex is horrible, or you have this huge letdown moment where it hurts, as sex the first time often does
For women.
mm-hmm. And you don't know why, or you feel like it was supposed to be magical, and it's actually really painful and really awkward, and you don't know your partner that way yet, and so you're bumbling through it. It sounds awful. It sounds like a terrible experience.
Yeah. That's for heterosexual couples. So that's not us.
Right.
So back on track.
Sorry.
So I think for me personally, a lot of the effect of how I understood sex and sexuality was that produced a lot of shame for me. So I never talked about sex or sexuality at all growing up. And I think well into college. And thank you for the patient friends of mine who experienced like me realizing that my experience wasn't the only one. But along with the shame came this just not talking about it, which is something that is really lends itself to rape culture.
Yes, it is deeply problematic. Oh my gosh. If you never talk about it with your friends, if women specifically never talk about it, I think that men talk about sex more than women do.
I think that's true.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And I think that it's okay for men to talk about sex, but only in super problematic ways most of the time, I would say. Misogynistic ways. Like, heaven forbid a man doesn't have the best time in the bedroom.
I think the phrase locker room talk kind of sums it up. I think the fact that a lot of us know what that means is that's like in and of itself. Nope. Yeah, I think the phrase locker room talk pretty much sums it up. People say that all the time to talk about the idea that men just have this kind of like vulgar sense of sex. Like they just talk about it like, oh yeah, man, they totally banged that chick. And it's like this, something that is talked about as almost as if like it can't be helped. Like that's just how men are.
And they're like domineering. And they're always supposed to be sexually satisfied.
Yeah. And they're always supposed to be sexually driven.
Yes. Yes, as if they don't have their own agency.
Yeah. Which is so problematic.
Yeah.
Back to the not talking about it piece.
Yes.
Like, if you don't talk about sex, you can't understand it. If you don't talk about sexuality, you can't understand it. And that's for you. Yeah, I know. That's for yourself and for others and for your relationships. And what that looked like for me was understanding that I wasn't a sexual being. That wasn't something that I was like interested in. That wasn't something that I should be passionate about or driven by. It wasn't something that I should really want. It was just something that happened once I got married to a man. And that men were sexually driven. Because in order to have sex to have a baby, a man has to orgasm. So that piece was like the driving force. And because men have to orgasm in order to have a baby, they are like primal sexually driven beings, which back to your point, takes away all of their agency. It's ridiculous. It's like the idea that women are just supposed to kind of like be this passive and submissive like recipient of sex. And if you enjoy it, that's awesome, but it's not necessary because you're having sex to have a baby. And you probably want to have sex sometimes and you don't want to have sex other times. But yeah, and so it's like taking away all this agency from men and from women. It's saying like, well, we're just like, what was that song? Like, you and me, baby, we ain't nothing but mammals.
So let's do it like they do
on the Discovery Channel.
Awesome. So all that to say that these layers, they all add up and they stack on top of one another. So it's not just that men are sexual beings and women are not. It's that women then don't talk about it. They have sometimes these horrible experiences with men because we live in a society, a misogynistic, patriarchal society, where sexual assault happens constantly. And the Me Too movement is evidence of how widespread that is. Ask any woman, and they probably have a time when they have been made uncomfortable from being sexually harassed by men, whether that is like sexual assault or something more serious like rape. It's like a universal experience for women to be part of this power structure with men where they can't talk about it.
Yeah, and I think another piece of this for me was I didn't feel like I had any agency, right? I'm just a woman, right? And so I didn't feel like I could come out because I didn't even know that was an option. It's not that I was like, no, I can't be gay. It was like, I just never even, I mean, I guess I was, but I never even thought it was an option. I never even thought about it seriously. My only thought was, I want to have a relationship someday, so I'm not going to be gay. Like, that was it. And it was so not on the surface. So I couldn't come out until way later, until I had, like, fully developed, like, all of these experiences that better informed my understanding of myself and allowed me to really reflect on who I am. So I couldn't come out, and because of that, I put myself in situations that I didn't really want to be in. Like, I put myself in relationships that I didn't really want to be in. But now, knowing myself better, I think that I could have saved myself and others a lot of pain from not jumping into those when I didn't know myself all the way and I couldn't make fully informed decisions.
Yeah, or you had this idea about sex and what it was for that was maybe misaligned from your truest beliefs or desires.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit more about that. When we started our relationship, I think it was really hard for you to talk about all that stuff. I'm amazed at how much you've grown and your ability to talk about it. I mean, even the first time I brought it up, I feel like you were blushing and pretty quiet, and now you're able to just go off about it. It's really cool.
I can say the word sex now.
So, but back to women not talking about it. Women also don't talk about when sex is good. Women also don't talk about the way they feel pleasure, how they masturbate. And a lot of women don't learn how to masturbate until later. And if you don't understand how to feel good and how your body feels good, often you...
Yeah.
I know. Often you can't find that in your sexual partnerships either. So if you don't end up with a partner who's super willing to help you figure it out, you never get there.
Yeah.
And women never get there. And when you do bring it up, all of these stories come flooding out, and it's like this relief that finally we can talk about this, and maybe we can get somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's like if you have like a ton of questions about something and you can't answer them because it's not okay to talk about, it's really taboo. Other people have, like, other women have different experiences and different understandings of sex, so it's like you can't be like, hey, are you like sexually liberated? Like, can I talk to you about this? Maybe you can, I don't know. But even more basic, I didn't even know what questions to ask. I didn't even know what I didn't know. I still don't. I still really, really struggle to talk about sex. I struggle to talk about sexuality also, because that is related to sex.
It's so closely tied.
And it's painful because it's something that has been really sewn into the fabric of my existence and my identity. So I don't know when something feels wrong because it's what I've been taught or because it's what feels wrong for me.
Oh.
And that I think is incredibly dangerous. It's so dangerous for women because we gain understanding of ourselves at the same time that we gain understanding of this system. And if we adhere blindly to a system of faith or a religion or any system, and we don't ever question ourselves or interrogate what we are outside of that or separate from it, we can't understand where we end and it begins. So that makes it absolutely impossible to draw your own conclusions. You're always kind of like running parallel to this other thing that you didn't come up with on your own, that isn't natural for you, that's been given to you or imposed on you.
Wow, okay, I feel like that's actually a really good place to wrap up this video. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I have a lot more things that I want to talk about. I want to talk about the porn industry. If you're not going to your friends with these questions, what, do people go to porn? That's terrible. I have so many issues with that. I want to talk about then what sex looks like when relationships don't have a man, because sex is usually about the man ejaculating and then having a kid, again, within the Catholic lens that we're viewing this.
Yeah.
And a whole host of other things. So this is going to be the first video of a series.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to dive more into it. This is fascinating for me. I love talking about it. I think it's really important to talk about it. If you're uncomfortable talking about it, that's okay. We're glad you're here.
We're not supposed to raise our hands.
And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for
Come
being
join
here.
us. Yeah, we really appreciate it. Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Yeah.
You stop driving us insane? Good girl.
I think that the result of
Stop it.
I